This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everybody. Once you realize this and work with it, maybe harness the power of it, many changes for a very positive direction can take place. I am referring to your parts. I'm not talking about the physical parts like your head, your hands, your feet. I'm talking about the different parts within all of us. I'm not talking about split personalities or multiple personalities. We have different parts to us and our personality. We're going to look at that today and this thing called internal family systems. And that's part of what she uses to help people have breakthroughs, understand themselves, better relationships, move themselves better in a very positive direction when it comes to their personal and professional lives. She offers amazing counseling through many different modalities, including this thing called IFS. And we're going to dig into it today with Barbara J. Lanz. Back on the program. How are you doing today?
Good afternoon. I'm doing great.
So I've heard about internal family systems, know a little bit about it, not a lot. We've referenced it a few times before in conversations, along with other modalities. Today, the focus on IFS. Where do we start with that today?
Well, just wanted to explain a few of the parts or the explanations of people talk about, parts. We all have lots of parts. The part of me that wants to go to the gym so I look good, and the part of me that would rather eat chocolate and watch TV. So we have lots of conflicting parts.
Those parts were talking to me, both of them this morning. I'm not even kidding. Yeah. I'm not even kidding. I'm serious. It's like, and the typical beginning of the year, going to the gym, and it's like, but I deserve to sleep late. I deserve this. So my parts are conflicted in that regard.
Yeah, opposing parts. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. We all have them. Mm-hmm. And also I wanted to talk about the 5 love languages that we've mentioned a couple of times in the last few weeks and how IFS plays into that role. But to start with, the exiled, we all have exiled parts that carry pain from the past. They're fear, shame, loneliness, guilt. We bury them. Life goes on. Pick yourself up and go on when something happens because you can't do anything about it. We bury the pain. And very frequently, we learn to do this in childhood. It's nothing wrong with our parents. It's what they knew, and they're doing their best. But we have these parts. Everybody's got one. Everybody's got some. Rare is the child that grows up in an emotionally healthy family that gets their needs met and gets to express all their feelings. It's just really not possible.
I was just going to ask you that question. Thank you for saying that. Even those that describe, I had a wonderful childhood, everything was great. Okay, I'm glad you feel that way, but it really wasn't that way. There was a lot of things that came up during that that we don't even realize. It's hidden, right?
Yeah, it is. And so then we develop what are called protectors that keep that pain at bay. And that's where the anxiety, the anger, social isolation, depression, people-pleasing, perfectionism, addictions, even cutting and suicide ideation and attempts all fall into the protecting you from feeling that pain. And so in relationships, though, what happens is now we have this book called The 5 Love Languages, and I hear couples all the time say, my love language is acts of service, and he would just do things for me, or she, we'd get along a lot better. But the reason I wanted to talk about that is because it puts the responsibility for how you feel on another person's behavior. And I'm not saying that the book says that completely, but that's what I hear people taking away from it. So you've got exiles and you've got protectors. And why does this matter? Well, let's just say, without meaning to, if you loved me, you would blank, blank, blank. And so all of a sudden, emotional regulation and worth and safety all are on the responsibility of the partner. But when you have an exile activated, that's usually a child part. And so then all of a sudden, you've got rules, and protectors develop all these rules that you have to talk to me in this way in order for me to feel safe. So there's a big circle to this.
Wow. And it is back to the fundamental. I would be this if that. And a lot of us do it. You know, I will be happy when I find a good job. I will. We do that all the time. It's dependent on something else, usually not us. Why do we do that? Is that part of the exile parts or the protectors?
It is. It is part of that. It's also learned in that children are victims. Children have to go to school and they have to wear uniforms. So children are very much in a victim role. Coming out of that victim role in the teenage years is when they want to have more power. And oftentimes that's when parents get even more strict because it's their responsibility to raise responsible children. But if you are so strict with that and you don't allow teenagers to find what they want to do and give them some, you can't go from no social media, no phone, isolation to, they can have a phone when they're 18. And I have parents that do that, completely isolate their children. But at 18, by 18, they're not going to know, they're not going to have any practice in boundary setting and what's appropriate and inappropriate for people to say to them. But say words of affirmation is your love language.
Can I just ask one question right here before we lose this point right here?
Yeah.
A parent, no judgment. We parent based on what we know. Mm-hmm. So no judgment. But the parent who may do that, great example. You can have a phone when you're 18. Are they doing it for themselves and not really the best for their child? And they're operating off of what they internalized. And whatever the reason is, they're thinking that's the best thing for my kid, but it's really the best thing for them, but they don't realize it.
It could be that, or it could be the opposite. It could be that they weren't given boundaries or contained as a teenager, and so they joined a gang and they were wild and they did things that they later regretted. So then they decide their children need to be contained.
Well, okay, two different things there. That would be the obvious. That would be the obvious where you're aware of it. That happened back then. I ain't never letting that happen to my kid. So that you are aware of that, and it's a conscious effort to not let your kid have a phone or whatever it might be. The other where it just, no, you're not doing this. No, I don't want you having a phone. That's just the way it's going to be. Is that really the part of the parent that is in exile or maybe a protector? Again, they're not even aware of it, but it's based on their upbringing.
Well, it's power and control. And when you need power and control to feel safe, then that is one of your protectors.
Wow.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Absolutely.
I didn't think of it as control, but thank you for saying the word, because that crystallizes it, and that's just one example or situation, but understandable too.
Well, we all want to have control over our lives. It's when we try to control people, places, and things that it kind of starts getting out of whack. But say that, let's just say that your love language is words of affirmation.
Okay.
And a partner comes in and you've got an exiled part that's sensitive to emotional neglect. So you've got a child emotionally neglected. So therefore, this person really wants to hear words and not be neglected, but maybe the partner is busy and forgets, and it just doesn't say anything. So that person is wanting their partner to help them regulate and heal that wounded child. So then when you start getting angry because your partner doesn't speak to you with words of affirmation because they know that's my love language, then all of a sudden the responsibility for your healing is placed on somebody else. That puts you back being a victim. The one thing that you can count on is that people are going to disappoint you. We're just human. You got to understand that you're responsible for your life. And if you want somebody else to make you happy and be responsible for your healing, you're going to be waiting around a long time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I find this true with me, and I wonder if this is kind of universal. Once you're more connected to yourself, you see those things more easily, more clearly. Where, let's say you start I'm not even talking about a romantic relationship, could be a business relationship where maybe you do a partnership with somebody. Yeah, I got somebody else. We're going to work on this together. But then you realize it's really not working for you, where you may have put up with that and let it go for months, years, whatever it might be. But once you harness the power of what we're talking about and have a better understanding of yourself, that you stop it way sooner, because you right away realize this isn't in alignment with me. I'm not feeling it anymore. Do you find that happens? You have those realizations sooner?
Well, when you know how to access your own, what Dick Schwartz called your self energy, he's the one that really developed this system years ago. It's been around a long time. But when you have your self energy, then you know what you're, how, you know where your exiles are, when they're triggered, when this doesn't feel right for me, and you honor that self more. But you're much more calm, you're much more curious. The 8 C's, they're called, the compassion. One of the best ways to be is curiosity. I wonder why I'm feeling left out right now. I wonder why I left my neighbor a nice note and she still ignores me. What did I do? In other words, it's like when you become reactive, when someone ignores you, it's like, isn't that interesting? I wonder why that's happening. Oh, yeah, that's related to X, Y, and Z. And all of a sudden, you put the parts together. And what I try to teach and what I teach my clients is how to use the system themselves. Because once you know yourself and you know where your triggers are, and when you're reactive, it doesn't mean it's someone else's responsibility to change the way they are. It means it's your responsibility to figure out your reaction to it. You don't need me anymore. Just send me a Christmas card. It's like you don't need to be in. I mean, yes, trauma does take a long time to heal, but there are a lot of ways in where you've got anxiety or depression as protectors. And once you understand what their job is, when they show up, you can say, oh, how interesting. Oh, you know what? You don't get to drive the bus today. You don't get to take charge of my life today. Today, I get to be in charge. And today, you get to go sit in the back of the bus. We call it Who's Driving the Bus?
What's coming up for me as you say this, it's that once you're more connected and maybe going through the process of IFS and more, that when you realize it doesn't support you, you move on. It's like, yeah, and you don't have to think about it. It's like, well, why is it that way? Why did they act that way? Whatever, that's them. I'm moving on. I really, you care, but you really don't care about it. You just drive you go up to the front of the bus and you drive your bus.
Yeah, it's well. It doesn't mean you don't care what happens to people. And it doesn't mean you don't care about other people's reactions.
Yes.
It just means you accept the fact that as the person that you are, you can be responsible for yourself. If you don't accept responsibility for yourself and you're trying to fix everybody else, that leads to, oh, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? What can I do? Why is he doing this? Why is he doing this? That is ruminating thoughts. And it comes from the need to feel better by controlling something. And it's back to control.
All right, there's that word again. Would you say, Barbara, in your experience, somebody wanting control is kind of paramount. Do we all want control to a certain degree? And really, does does this really come down to a lot of this? A lot of it comes down to control.
Well, we need to be able to control our environment to stay safe, to survive.
Mm.
When you can't, children instinctively know they can't control their environment and they can't survive without their parents. And so they become, they want to become acceptable. They want to become the parents, can I help you, mommy? Can I help you? Help. They become the person they need to be to survive.
Mm.
If you can't control your job and you get laid off and you can't eat, or you lose your car, you lose your house, then that's a whole form of survival that you have to control. And I think that when we understand that we do our very best to control what we can, doing it in isolation is the hard part. We're made to be in community, and there are so many different ways to find community. One of the questions, to ask somebody is, off the top of your head, if you need $25, who would you call right now? Who would that be? And some people say, no one, I don't have anyone. If you lost your house right now, who would take you in until you could get on your feet? We all need people. We need each other. And so a lot of that, that control comes from the need to be safe, the need to know. Well, I think there are people who don't even know what they need. They've been in isolation. They grew up in a home where they had to take care of themselves, or they had to take care of their siblings. And all they know is taking care of others. And they don't know. We talked about this the other day, how to take care of yourself and to know what you need.
Is it such a bad thing if you were, I guess best description, isolated in growing up, where you had to rely on yourself? Like it's, you were given that your parents were busy, they were working, and I'm not, again, no parent thrown under bus. They were busy. They had to do what they did, but you were more isolated. Is that a bad thing, or is it, embrace it because you learn to fend for yourself, so to speak?
I think it depends on the degree at which you're able to feel. So you fend for yourself and you take care of your siblings, and your mom and dad are working and you're taking care of the house and you're 10 years old. If you have a mom that comes home and says, thank you for helping me out, I'm so sorry that you have to do what I wish I could do.
Okay.
Tell me how you feel. Well, I'm angry because, I didn't get to go play with my friends. Well, it's, the child's being seen and heard in the state that they're in.
Gotcha.
That's one way to handle it. Smack them on the face because the dishes aren't done perfectly when you walk in the door. That's the abusive form of that. So there's a lot of ways. When children are seen and heard, they have an amazing ability, to stay present and to not go into hiding and isolation. But they have to be safe. I think safety is the key thing there. But, and that kind of, gets triggered when someone needs a physical or an abusive relationship healed, and they're with another partner, and they want that partner to, I don't know, let's say touch is one of their love languages. I just want a hug. I just want, non-sexual touch, just touch my body. And there's a lot of people that live in the same house and there's no touch. There's some sex once in a while or whenever or every day or whatever, but there's no touch. There's no like, oh my God, love you, babe. There's none of that. And so, and when that is your love language, but the person that you want that from was smacked around, they may not be able to give you what you want. So it goes both ways. What you need, you may not get, and what you need to give, you may not be able to give.
The parts are so important to relationships that I'm seeing here. They really, really are.
Yeah. big part of relationship work is to know who's talking and who's listening.
Would you be your parts? Okay. Would some be talking, whether verbally or just internally in your mind? And would other parts be listening in the same way?
Absolutely. Oh, we have conversations with ourselves all the time. Everybody does. So
Many times they're negative conversations.
Most people have a critical part. Yeah. And when that critical part gets going, then it's like, then you have to activate the part that says, well, how come you get to drive the bus today? What is it helping me for you to be criticized, for you to be critical of me? And so that part of you that understands criticism isn't helping today can then take over and drive the bus, ask that part to go do something else.
To even further illustrate this, and I believe this is universally relatable, but the old cartoon where you have the devil on one shoulder, the angel on the other shoulder, it kind of be, two parts right there, right?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. One of the exercises we do in recovery work, addiction work, is the addiction voice on one side that says, I got to have it, can't stand the craving, can't stand how I feel without it. I want the high, the chasing the high. And the other voice on the other side that says, yeah, but remember what happened when you did that last time. You got blacked out. You woke up in another city in another car with somebody you didn't know. I mean, remember that. And there's a lot of voices that play out in addiction, a lot of parts.
If somebody has an addiction to, let's say, alcohol, can you help them effectively with IFS?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's one of the big things that we work with.
Wow.
I work with.
Why is it called this? And I'm surprised I didn't ask this initially. Internal family systems. It's almost that name, almost misleading for many, because you come up with a picture of family, a system, the internalized part of it. How did that name come about? Any ideas, or why?
I have heard Dick Schwartz explain how he came up with the name of it, but off the top of my head, I can't remember.
No worries.
I'm just right now, but it is a system. Family systems where you have, in the family system, you've got parents, grandparents, children, aunts, uncles. You've got a lot of people in a system. In a work environment, systems theory has been around for a long, long time. The government's got it. Our whole government's a system. Everything's a system, meaning everything's got parts. Everybody plays a role. And you take that on the inside world, and you got roles and parts.
That says a lot right there. And you're right. There should be systems for everything, even in our lives. You wake up first thing in the morning, you're actually operating on a system. Your system of, brushing your teeth, cup of coffee, maybe making the bed, taking the dog out. It's a system, believe it or not. The family part of internal family systems, is that in there because it's really referring to your upbringing, and a lot of this comes from our childhood? Is that why the word family's in there?
Probably, but the family is what you're born into. You can't be born in isolation, so you are in a family, and that family is how you learn to deal with the world. That's how you learn your role. It's how you learn your place. You can have a critical parent. You can have a nurturing parent. You can have a parent that goes back and forth, and you never know who's walking in the door. So there is a lot of, aunts, uncles, grandparents. You've got part of your family that ignores you, part that sees you. So it gets quite involved.
We're out of time. I would love to continue this if we may, and maybe go deeper into. We didn't even get to the 5 love languages in detail.
Not too much.
Yeah. But I know we can just say acts of service, physical affection, but it goes even deeper than that, and why we may be craving it, wanting it, or why we put those things, at number one on our list and the other ones at number 5. What do you think about circling back to that next time we get together?
Sure. Yeah, we could do
Beautiful.
that because it's that exile that's looking for healing.
How do we find you, Barbara?
Yeah. You can find me on my website, barbarajlanz.com, and send me a message. My phone number's on there. Give me a call.
Thank you for today. Going to be quite honest. I have somebody that's struggling in my world. I believe IFS would be perfect for them. Yeah. And I'm going to let them know.
There's a list of providers on the IFS website. So,
appreciate it. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
I've heard of it before. Thank you for the depth and the detail today. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.